Welcome into the Michigan Football Report. Got a great NFL draft focus show for you with all of Michigan's players. Want to ask this question to start. How many Michigan players will get selected in next week's NFL draft? Got a lot of prospects. I want to hear what you guys are thinking, how confident you are in this year's crop. We've got an awesome show and a special guest to go through the entire NFL draft related to Michigan coming up right now. Going to walk you through all of Michigan's draft-eligible prospects. The guys hoping to get their name called. Obviously, Shea Patterson. No one needs an introduction on him. Donovan Peoples-Jones had a great combine. McKeon didn't put up the stats. I don't know if he necessarily has the athleticism that the NFL is looking for, but some people projecting that he could get picked in the draft. The man in the middle there, Donovan Peoples-Jones, in my opinion, was underutilized, didn't produce in his career. I'll ask you guys the question before we continue on Michigan's draft prospects. Grade his career at Michigan. Kind of an amazing stat. Braylon Edwards' senior year at Michigan, his stats basically mirror DPJ's entire career from catches, yards, touchdowns. So give me a grade, A, B, C, D, or F. Grade DPJ's career at Michigan. Let's take a look at the four offensive line. Wolverines losing four guys in the O-line. There's a chance all these guys could get drafted. Cesar Ruiz being projected by a lot of folks as first round. We'll kind of talk you through where the different mocks are putting him here in a moment. Bredeson, Jon Runyan, and Michael Onwenu. So those are the offensive side of the ball as the skill guys. Then the offensive linemen. I want to ask you guys to subscribe to the channel. Stay up to date on the Michigan Football Report all off season long. You guys know I bring you the best info. I don't try and sell you anything from a subscription side by making up stories like some of those guys out there. So subscribe to this channel because there's less and less media out there for Michigan right now. I want to make sure we're bringing you more media pertaining to the Michigan football program, youtube.com/Michigan TV. Let's take a look on the defensive side of the ball for the University of Michigan. Don Brown's highly rated defense, but has not done well against Ohio State. You've got Josh Uche. Michigan coaches are taking some shots in the media this week for underutilizing Uche in his career at Michigan. Khaleke Hudson, a 3-year starter. Is he a linebacker? Is he a safety potentially? And then Lavert Hill had flirted with the NFL last year, but now some people say he might not even get drafted after his senior season. Going to the defensive backfield, we've got Josh Metellus. We've got Michael Danna. And we've got Jordan Glasgow. These are three players that are kind of on the fringe of whether they're going to get drafted or not. So we kind of put them towards the back end of the defensive profiles of Michigan's potential draftees. I want to ask you guys this question. Is Don Brown, Michigan's defensive coordinator going into his 5th season with the Wolverines, is Don Brown on the hot seat? We're going to take your voting by doing this. If you think he's on the hot seat in 2020, type yes, like the video. If it's no, comment on the video. Show Don some support. So yes, if Don Brown's in the hot seat, give the video a like. If no, make sure you comment. I'm welcoming in my main man, Tom Downey, Chat Sports' NFL draft expert. No one knows the draft better than Tom. And don't you say it, Tom. I know what you're about to say right there. Want to make sure you guys, before we get into Michigan, reminder if you didn't know, Chat Sports will be live for 20 plus hours. All kinds of coverage, but live 20 hours next weekend on YouTube, on Facebook. You see the YouTube link right there, youtube.com/chatsportstv. Getting started Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern for the first round of the draft. Tom, welcome into the show. I think you've been on before, but it's been a couple years. Walk us through your draft grades criteria.
Starters there, you're on Yoder time again because it has not been years, I don't think, at this point. But
I think the 2018 season. I think the 2018 season, honestly.
Well, I don't know about that one. Either way, we'll agree to disagree here. In terms of how I grade players, I just do a round grade system. I think that's the simplest way to understand it than trying to throw a bunch of numbers at people. It's basically where I would draft them. And what goes into that is especially the athletic traits. That's super important. Of course, the on-field production, which is a fancy way of saying, well, were they good or not at the college football level? I'm also looking at what role they're going to play in the NFL, trying to figure out how they can help an NFL team. And then I also factor in stuff like any potential off-field concerns and then leadership traits as well.
Yeah, Tom, you would not have graded Rashawn Gary, if I recall, last year. Very good on the on-field production side, but he still got drafted in the top 15. Let's go through the prospects based on where you grade them from top to bottom for Michigan's draft prospects, starting off with Cesar Ruiz. He's getting a lot of first-round buzz, Tom. You got him a first, second. You got Josh Uche as a second, Donovan Peoples-Jones as a third. Anything you want to add to just the draft prospects of these guys? Who's rising? Who's falling?
Yeah, we'll start with Ruiz there, who I think is the first Michigan player drafted this year. Part of the reason why, and this kind of maybe falls into more of the off-field, or maybe it's the role side of it, he isn't 21 years old yet. I think NFL teams will value that. In what's not a great interior offensive line class, I think Ruiz is the top guy. There is still, of course, some room to be worked on in terms of the production. You see that the quarterback hurries that he allowed this past year. No sacks, though, is quite valuable. But you've got a really good athlete, a young player who hasn't come close to hitting his developmental ceiling yet. So I think you're betting on upside with Ruiz, but there are several teams in the back end of round one. I think you're going to target him to add some more help on either at guard or at center.
It's really surprising, Tom, thinking about when he was, rumored to be declaring for the draft. Michigan fans were saying this is a mistake. He could be a fifth-round guy. Now projected potentially in the first round. He's had quite a last 2 or 3 months. Josh Uche, NFL scouts are saying, man, Michigan underutilized him. Only 13 snaps against Ohio State. That is mind-blowing based on his projections right now. And then, Tom, just talk to us briefly about Donovan Peoples-Jones. I think he's one who's kind of a firecracker for Michigan fans coming up here, is that he didn't produce as much as expected as five-star, top 15 player coming out of high school. What do you see from DPJ in the draft, maybe projecting his career in the NFL?
He's kind of a wild card because the production was not good. So NFL teams are trying to figure out, okay, we've got this absolute freak athlete who can jump. He's fast. He's got special teams value. The hands are, you gotta kind of figure out, okay, how much do you rely on that? On the 9.5% drop rate, that's not great. Wasn't great in contested catches. The route running, frankly, I didn't think was ideal. But upside-wise, again, you've got a fantastic athlete who blew up the combine, who's young, and whatever way you want to blame it, he was held back in that Michigan offense. I think part of the blame goes to DPJ. You can put some on the coaching staff. You can put some on the quarterback as well if you want. But in a very strong receiver class, I think he's a bit of a wild card in terms of where he ends up going. Does it happen on day 2, or is he one of the first picks on day 3?
Yeah, Tom, he just turned 21 February 19th. So didn't know this. Shares the same birthday as me. We're just a few years apart. Josh Uche, we'll talk about these three guys a little bit more than the others because they are the highest upside. You might see DPJ pop into the beginning of the second. I don't know. But Josh Uche, how was he so underutilized, Tom, at Michigan? Because every time he came in the game in 2018, 2019, it was like the Tasmanian devil in there. But then he gets 13 snaps in your biggest game of your career, maybe if you're Jim Harbaugh as Michigan's coach, dropping to 0-5. Talk to me what you see on Uche.
I like him a lot, and I think he should go within the top 50 picks just based on what we saw at Michigan. I think you're right that they didn't use him very well for whatever reason. I know he's kind of an awkward tweener in his size, 6'1", 245. That's a little bit bigger than most off-ball linebackers, a little bit undersized for most of those passers, but he has the long arms that NFL teams like, and his pressure rate was fantastic this past year. 22.3% is one of the highest ones of all pass rushers in this year's class. So if you want someone who, might be undersized, but you want to have him come in off the edge and bend, I think there's going to be that there, especially for teams that want to run a 3-4 scheme. I like Uche a lot this year.
Yeah, absolutely. Want to ask the question to you, the audience. Tom, you can chime in as well. But did Michigan blow it with Josh Uche? Was never really a true starter. Was always like the 12th starter if Michigan had four linebackers in the field or had him as a rush edge. I think it's a yes for sure. So let's see what you guys think. Type 1 below in the comments if they blew it with Josh Uche with his talent. Type 2 if no. We don't know. The coaches know better than us. I'm going to go with 1. Tom, quick vote on your end.
I think, they did.
1 from Tom Downey, the best in the business. Take a look at the rest of Downey's draft grade. Ben Bredeson, a 4-year starter. I think he started more games than any player in Michigan history, or second most. He's basically started from second or third game his true freshman year. Michael Onwenu, Jon Runyan, Michigan's offensive lineman. Tom, just walk me through each of those guys, with why you're grading them for 4th, 5th, and then 5th through 7th for the other two.
You kind of got two very different guards there. We'll start with Bredeson, who I thought played very well, especially in pass protection. He doesn't have the best athletic traits, not quite the same level of say, a Ruiz, but he was very productive at Michigan. He was a 2-time team captain. The technique is very good. I think he could be a potential starter at left guard in the NFL. Meanwhile, Michael Onwenu, a very, very different prospect than Bredeson because that is a big boy on the interior, 344 pounds. You have to kind of worry a little bit about keeping the weight at a number that you want in the NFL. He was a multi-year starter. That is a classic right guard option in the NFL. If you want to run the football, if you're a team that values that, I think Onwenu does make sense for you in that day 3, probably potentially early day 3 as well. And then finally, Jon Runyan, who I think has to move inside to guard in the NFL, which is kind of a tricky projection because I don't necessarily love the strength behind it. I do think he's best in the run game. The arm length isn't what you want, but as a potential versatile backup option in the NFL, a guy who can maybe kick out to tackle if you need him to and play some guard as well, I think that carries value in the NFL in that late day 3 range.
One of the few times I've eaten crow, Tom, on a Michigan football player, I did not think Lil Jon would turn into an all Big Ten player. I want to make sure you guys are following Tom on Twitter. Follow him at WhatGoingDowney. As I said, look, this guy has amazing draft coverage on Twitter. He puts out mock drafts, projections, videos on our Chat Sports YouTube channel where the NFL draft will be coming to you next Thursday. You're going to see Tom's face on there for just more hours than I want to even imagine. So go ahead and follow him on Twitter at WhatGoingDowney. Take a look at the rest of Downey's draft grades. Then we're going to pop into a few mock drafts, simulated mock drafts, let you guys know where these guys are actually going to be drafted, what round, and by what team. Tom, walk us through these guys. Lavert Hill, Josh Metellus, Khaleke Hudson.
Yeah, the coverage production was pretty good for Lavert Hill, except you factor in the penalties. He had quite a few of them at Michigan, far too many, but he broke up a ton of passes. That he doesn't quite have the physical traits that you covet. You're kind of searching for a little bit faster guy, a little bit longer guy, but as a potential nickel, I think he could being an option for an NFL team on day 3.
Yeah, for sure, Tom.
Go ahead, James.
I think from the perspective of Josh Metellus, some Michigan fans got tired of seeing the back of his jersey chasing Ohio State and Penn State players into the end zone after a really promising sophomore year in 2017. He was the guy that took a lot of heat from Michigan fans. Khaleke Hudson changed positions, had that amazing game as a sophomore against Minnesota where he broke basically like every Big Ten record for tackles behind the line of scrimmage, like 8 or 9 tackles behind the line of scrimmage, but not necessarily turned out to be the NFL draft prospect that I thought he was going to become a couple years ago. So those are the draft projections on those guys. Want to make sure you guys, if you were in the state of Michigan, I'm guessing you were a Lions fan, and you've suffered a lot if you're a Lions fan. So with some new hope, go ahead and get yourself a Lions draft hat, or for whatever NFL team you support. Awesome new NFL draft hats. Chatsports.com/NFL draft hat. We'll make it really simple. Those bad boys are on sale right now. Go get one. Chatsports.com/NFL draft hat. Just pick the team you want. You will have it in a matter of days. Keep it rolling the rest of the guys before we get into our mock drafts. Sean McKeon, Michael Danna, Shea Patterson, and Tom, I think you are way off on Shea. So you have better come correct with that one. And then Jordan Glasgow. Pick one of those guys, Tom. Let us know what your thoughts are, one that stands out to you.
How about we start with Shea then there, James. The production this past year for Patterson wasn't what I think anyone was hoping for, especially in terms of accuracy. I think Shea has shown the flashes of being the guy that Ole Miss and Michigan fans wanted him to be after being that highly touted recruit. He's a pretty good athlete as well. I think the arm is fine. But he's gone through so many scheme changes at this point, from even to high school to college. He's had 5 different schools in 8 years. He's never really had consistency and stability. I think that has negatively impacted him. You could take him as a late round flyer and hope that, hey, you've got the athlete there. Maybe we can work on some of the accuracy. The decision-making has never always been ideal for Patterson, especially under pressure. He has a bad tendency to kind of create his own pressure and bail on a pocket that he doesn't need to. But as a late round flyer, as a developmental guy, I'm on board with that.
Yeah, Tom. Some people don't want to recognize this, but Shea, second most passing yards in Michigan history in a season this season in 2019. It really picked up the second half of the year. With the big C out there keeping everybody at home, I'm going to ask this question to you. Scenario: football's played September, October, whatever it is. If there's no vaccine, if there's no guarantee you can recover, would you go to a Michigan football game this fall? If you would, which I would actually, put that on Twitter, got a lot of support for it. Give me an M in the comments. If you don't, if you're going to wait until there's a vaccine, not going into games, type C. M if you would, C if you wouldn't. Want to kind of get the vibe of the audience of the show, seeing what attendance might look like at Michigan Stadium without a vaccine for the big C. Tom, the draft is less than a week away. You're going to be on for 20 plus hours probably. Chat Sports will be live for all 7 rounds. Other than the TV networks, we're the only ones doing it on the internet. It is the number one most watched draft coverage on the internet last year. Tom will be on all 7 rounds. YouTube.com/chatsportstv, the main company YouTube channel. Go subscribe now. You don't want to watch on TV because Tom also reminded everybody we get the picks before they put them on the TV broadcast. If you want to be ahead of everybody, Chat Sports is the way to go. YouTube.com/chatsportstv. Mock draft number 1. We simulated a mock draft from one of these wacky websites out there. Let's walk through this. I'll go through all the picks, Tom, and you let me kind of have any takeaways at the end. First round, Cesar Ruiz would be a great landing spot for him with Chase Winovich with the New England Patriots. They lost another Michigan guy this offseason. Might gain one here with Cesar Ruiz. Josh Uche going towards the back half of the second round to the Bills, and then Donovan Peoples-Jones to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Keep it rolling. Ben Bredeson going in the 5th round. Michael Onwenu, his offensive lineman, offensive guard counterpart, going in the 5th as well, just 2 picks later. And then Shea Patterson going in the 7th at number 234. Is it the Chargers? Is that the Rams? I don't even know what logo that is, Tom. I think it's the Rams, but that's a new logo for them. So only, 6 guys in that mock draft in that first one we did. We're going to simulate another one here in just a second. Ask you guys, the audience, and I'll let Tom answer this one for me. Will Shea Patterson get drafted? Comment below. Let me know what your thoughts are on Shea's prospects going forward, the NFL draft, and maybe even beyond. But answer it below. Tom, while they're doing that, go ahead and give me your answer.
Yeah, I think he's got a shot to be drafted. Probably comes at that late end of day 3. Maybe a team like the Lions could end up making sense. They got a pretty good up close and personal look at him at the Senior Bowl. And I actually kind of like his fit for the Rams because behind Jared Goff, I don't trust really anyone in that quarterback room.
And so, Tom, that mock draft had 6 Michigan players, including Shea Patterson. We did another mock draft with another one of these websites that let you simulate the entire 7 rounds. And here's what they delivered to us. Cesar Ruiz going a little later in the first round, but still a first rounder. Uche in the second round. DPJ drops to the 4th in this one. And then Khaleke Hudson out of nowhere pops into the 4th round. So kind of wild and crazy that he goes undrafted in 1, 4th round in this one. Talk over to the 5th round, and you've got Lavert Hill, Ben Bredeson, Josh Metellus, Jon Runyan. So a little bit wildly different results from the second mock draft. No Shea Patterson, no Jon Runyan, no Michael Onwenu, and then you add Metellus, you add Hudson, you add Runyan. So walk us through the second mock draft, Tom. Where do you see what you like? What do you see any flaws in it?
Yeah, I kind of like how different the 2 simulations ended up being because that's kind of how the NFL draft tends to be, especially by the time you get to day 3. Things get kind of wild and wacky. There are always surprise picks, and the range of where prospects could go is very different. I don't know if I see Khaleke Hudson going in round 4, but I think that round 5 to undrafted range is probably about right because I don't know what you do with him. I see a potential really good special teams player. I think you end up having more than 6 Michigan players drafted. I think Lavert Hill ends up sneaking in as well. But the inconsistency and just the general range of outcomes for NFL draft prospects, especially those day 3 guys from Michigan, I think there's going to be some very big variation in terms of where teams have them on their board, and that will lead to some significant variation as well in terms of where they actually end up going come the NFL draft.
So Tom's got quite a few Michigan guys potentially getting drafted. Some of these mock drafts out there, simulated ones, say 6, say 8 players. Tom, I'm going to put my number at 9 Michigan players draft. Before we head out, give me your number. How many Michigan players are going to get drafted?
I'll take just under that. I'll end up going with 8, but I think there is a pretty decent path to 9 there. Shea Patterson might end up being your swing guy.
Yeah, we asked the question at the beginning of the show. Make sure you guys comment how many Michigan players will get drafted. Go ahead and subscribe to Chat Sports on YouTube. Watch the entire 2020 NFL Draft here with us. Go ahead and do it now. For Tom Downey, I am James Yoder, your host. Go Blue.